Welcome in, Big Blue Nation, to another episode of the Cats Talk podcast. I'm your host, Cameron Johnston, joined by my co-host today, Jacob Boyers. Jacob, first off, give Big Blue Nation a little teaser. How was the family weekend? Obviously, Thanksgiving weekend. Any big plans? How was the weekend for you guys?
Can't complain, man. I mean, with kids, you kind of just do what you can to survive the weekend. But no, it was pretty good. What Thursday had my family and Kate's family, and watched the Bengals get a win, and then Friday was anniversary day, so me and Miss Kate had a nice little Friday, and overall a pretty good weekend until we got to Saturday. But when we recap football, we can talk about that a little more. But all in all, a good weekend. How was your Thanksgiving, Cam?
Uh, just fantastic. Spending it with family and friends, obviously. Best way to do it. Sounds like a great weekend over at the Boyers household.
It
And
was.
obviously, Kentucky basketball, are there great things coming? We hope so. I don't know if we've got some great news to tell Big Blue Nation today, but we obviously are recapping this Tennessee Tech game that, Jacob, you mentioned before we hopped onto the podcast. Feels like it might have been 2 to 3 months ago. Like this might have been last year's team played this game. I'm not even sure.
I
But I
feel like
mean,
there were games from last year I could tell you more in depth play by play of what happened than I remember from Wednesday night.
I'm right there with you, man. It feels like this was an eternity ago. But the Cats obviously won, handled business 104-54, got a 50-point win over John Pelfrey and the Golden Eagles. And it was 25, 25,
Yep.
25, 24. Kentucky was trailing with about 10 minutes to go in that first half. A little bit of the alarm bell started sounding a little bit. Defensively wasn't looking too great. Obviously, pulled away late. Offense really started to click. But what did you really come away with, especially those first 10 minutes where we were struggling to put points on the board and kind of stop them as well?
Yeah. I mean, the first 10 minutes I think were pretty frustrating. It was kind of everything we've complained about really throughout the first, 6 games prior to that. It just felt like the effort wasn't fully there. Guys weren't super locked in. And I don't know what happened at that, 10-minute timeout when it came up. And like you said, it was whatever, 22-22 or whatever the score was at that point. But whatever Pope kind of told him, it definitely flipped a switch just intensity wise. I thought the last 30 minutes of the game, you saw really good things out of Owe that we've kind of waited all year to see. Um, why it took 10 minutes to get into that game to really kind of flip the switch, can't really tell you. But that switch definitely flipped. And obviously, the last 30 minutes of the game where I thought Kentucky looked really good. Again, you're playing Tennessee Tech, who's like in the 300s in RPI, so it's not like you're playing, a powerhouse or anything crazy. But the things that we wanted to kind of see from the Cats, I think you saw for 30 minutes of that game.
Yeah, and I mean, this is, if not the worst team we're going to play, probably one of the worst teams that we are going to play. And with 7 minutes and 18 seconds left in that first half, we were down 25-23. Obviously, we couldn't buy a bucket. We were searching for answers. I think Pope mixed and matched with a lot of different lineups in there. But I mean, at the end of the first half, you obviously ended with a 15-point. You're up 15, 43-28. So, like you mentioned, whatever he said in that under 8 timeout really got the game going, and that's where I think you started to see the effort start to kick in. But Jake, the thing that I really want to ask you is like, why do we have to ask for this effort? Why does it have to be we're 13 minutes into a game and, oh man, we're actually losing to Tennessee Tech. Let's kick it into gear now. I think that's a lot of Big Blue Nation's frustration with this team so far in the early season. And it's only going to continue to get harder and harder because, like we're going to preview here in a little bit, we've got North Carolina coming to town tomorrow night.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely can't come out and, have poor effort for 12 minutes against Carolina tomorrow. Um, I don't know. Like, it felt like they had pretty good intensity to start the
Mm-hmm.
Loyola game. What that would have been last Friday. It felt like there was some better intensity there. I don't know if these guys were just starting to think about their Thanksgiving break. They're looking at a team in the 300s in net, thinking that they're just going to come out and steamroll them. And next thing you know, Tennessee Tech makes a couple shots, and you're trailing because you're not giving it its all. As far as why, I don't really have an answer. That's going to have to be something Pope kind of answers and figures out, because every big game, it feels like we're always starting in a deficit. It would be fantastic to not do that every time and just come out and play with high intensity and keep your foot on the gas throughout.
Yeah, and even all that being said, the first half we shot 50% from the field. Went
Yeah.
18 of 36 in the first half, scored 43 points. I think the biggest difference between half one to half two, 3 of 13 from 3 in the first half, and then the second half he went 12 of 17. So he went from shooting 30% to 70.6%, just switching from half to half. And obviously I don't expect us to be a three-point shooting team of that caliber. I think we've already touched on that a lot, but I mean, is there anyone in this game that stuck out to you specifically, either from an effort wise or just something that you wanted to see that was actually shown in this one?
Yeah, real quick, I will say it was nice just to honestly see him shoot those 33s. I know that's something that Pope has talked about a lot, and with his offense, you got to be able to shoot it. So, you know, even the fact that they shot 3 of 13 in the first half, it was nice to see him get those shots, and then obviously a much better percentage there in the second half. I kind of already mentioned it, but Owe, I thought this was just kind of especially from that 8-minute timeout on, I thought he really kind of showed flashes of what he's shown last year, and the ability to kind of put the head down and get to the basket. He wasn't settling for a lot of bad shots early in the shot clock. Another really solid game out of Malachi. I thought Cam Williams did a lot of things really well. Denzel played well. So all in all, I think most of the guys played pretty well. Again, first 12 minutes weren't ideal, but against Tennessee Tech, there's not really a whole lot you can kind of take away from it, but that was kind of my big takeaways, I guess.
Yeah, and the thing I want to touch on the Otega ways. This is at least in this version of the game, minus that first 13 minutes of the game. This is the Otega that you got for most of last year. That's 16 points. I mean, his ability to get to the rim, finish in transition, actually got to the free throw line a little bit in this game. The only thing that, and this, it's going to sound like a broken record when I tell this to you. I mean, what do I always ask to see from Otega? Like, I got to see more than 2 rebounds in a game, especially in a game against a smaller team in Tennessee Tech. Granted, I know he only ended up playing 24 minutes in this game. But I still want to see those next steps. Obviously, versus what we saw from Otega the first 5 games of the season, this is taking another step. But I still think there's so much more to be unlocked with him if he does crash the boards right. And I do say one thing. I think he actually looked to pass the ball a little bit more in this game. It looked like when he was getting downhill, he looked to get out of those sometimes, which we didn't see at all last year and was one of my biggest critiques of Otega. So seeing that early in this game and just throughout the game entirely, I think is a big step forward. And we'll mention it a little bit later, but with the injuries you're going to have against North Carolina, you're going to need some more of that playmaking from him.
Yeah, definitely. And, with Otega, we're kind of begging him now to get back to where he was a year ago, when coming into the year, we were expecting a leap and a jump. And maybe it is just adding that passing ability. I don't think any of us really expect him to become a elite jump shooter like he tried to prove for Louisville and a handful of the other games to this point this season. So if you tell me that I'm going to get a very similar Otega to a year ago, and he's going to look to create for others more on those drives, I'm all for it.
Yeah, and so am I. And I think that's all you need him to be is that consistent slasher, finish in transition, get to the free throw line. I think genuinely what you need from him is exactly what he did last year, with maybe just a heightened emphasis on the defensive side of the ball. And I think that would take this team to a new level. We obviously mentioned Denzel Aberdeen. It's good to see. I don't think I saw an air ball, or at least I don't
Yeah.
remember one. And he went 4 or 6 from the 3-point line. It's good to see that shot's starting to fall. And he did play a little bit more off the ball in this game. Seemed like he wasn't playing that true point guard role, in which I think Pope has kind of forced him into over the past couple of games. I think that was nice to see. And you actually saw him play, I think, to another level in this game, because he was playing more of that 2 guard. And even if he was that primary point guard, it was more of that Pope offense. It was back to, there is no true traditional one. Let's just get out
Yeah.
there and let's space the floor and move the ball around. And I think you really saw Denzel thrive in that, in which he had 16 points on 6 of 10 shooting.
Yeah, I thought Denzel played well. 4 of 6 from three. I think if he's shooting like that, you feel pretty confident in him. Another guy is Jasper. I thought, coming off the bench, it was one of his better games. He didn't let the game get away from him. He kind of played within his strengths, and I don't really remember any really bad shots out of him, but going 4 of 6 from the field and having 4 assists to go along with it. So definitely a step in the right direction for Jasper as well.
Yeah, and the thing that obviously this is a true freshman point guard, so we're gonna have to live with some of these growing pains that Jasper is gonna have. I think he's turning the ball over at a little bit too high of a clip right now. I'd love to see that assist to turnover ratio start to climb more in the assist favor than it is right now. But I do like his ability. I think he is looking to pass the ball more. I mean, he did have that behind the back through a screen three that he hit, which don't get me wrong. If he's got that going, go ahead and shoot it. But I
Let
don't
it
know.
fly.
I don't know if I need to see that at the moment. But hey, if it's going, let him go. You mentioned it a little bit earlier in the season. Like he does have a little bit of that microwave ability, and kind of like how Rob Dillingham had, where if he does get hot, he can be your offense for 4 or 5 minutes, and get you 3, 4 straight baskets. And I think that's just seeing that confidence grow in Jasper. I think is going to do dividends because you're seeing what confidence does for other guys like Trent Noah, who goes 4 or 5 from three in this game, like it does for Colin Chandler. You see how much confidence actually does have to play and how these guys show up on the court. And really, I think just this entire team just needs a vote of confidence. And I think they got a little bit of that with the 50-point win, but I think they'd love to take care of North Carolina to add a little bit more to it.
Absolutely. And, back to Jasper real quick. I mean, I still think there's going to come a game. I don't know if it'll be one of these bigger non-conference games or, against somebody good in the SEC, but like there's going to come a game where we sit back and look and we say he had 3 threes in the stretch of 3 minutes that really kind of willed Kentucky to the win. And, we went on a big like 12-0 run or something. And we're going to look back and think it's because Jasper got hot. And, there might be a game or two where down the stretch he takes a couple shots that we're yelling at the TV to pull him out. So I just think that's kind of what we're going to have to live with by him. But yeah, 50-point win to the point you just made. You just try to get some confidence, get ready to go because, 4 of your next 5 games are going to be battles. And as crazy as it is, North Carolina might be the most winnable. You're probably not going to be an 8.5-point favorite against any of these other teams you got coming up.
That or Indiana is probably the only other option.
Indiana looks pretty good too. I watched them and when we were recording last week, I know it was Kansas State, but they crushed them at home. So Indiana, Lamar Wilkerson, they're better than I thought. And North Carolina, it's pretty much the Caleb Wilson show, and you hope that you can hold them in check. And if you can, I think Kentucky could win this one pretty big.
Yeah, and I don't even want to talk about Caleb Wilson, at least yet. Go ahead and go through this game because, man, we're talking about how much we need a 4 to step up with the ability to shoot. And my God, would Caleb Wilson fit right into that role? And just the one that got away. Story of my life here. But I kind of want to just mention somebody that I thought really played well. Obviously, didn't really light up the scoreboard, but Andrea Jelovich pulls down 10 rebounds, 3 assists, no turnovers. Only plays 15 minutes, but gets you 10 boards. I think that's something we needed to see from him, that ability to rebound in traffic, because you saw Brandon Garrison plays 17 minutes, only pulls down 4 rebounds. You see Trent Noah plays 21 minutes, pulls down 6 rebounds. You're seeing guys attack the glass, and I think you're starting to see that while Pope may not want to admit it in a press conference, I think BG's role is already being severely diminished, especially with the presence that Malachi Moreno's had. And I think he's starting to trust Andrea a little bit more because, I think we've mentioned it before, but obviously he made it over here a lot later than everybody else did. And I think he's finally starting to find some comfort in there, and Pope's starting to have some confidence in him as well.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned Jelovich. It's funny because he's not doing like the thing that like I thought he would do for this team, which is like come in and be like a spark offensively and make a bunch of threes. Like he's not shooting the ball particularly well. I know he's had some games where he's made a couple, but like I thought he would struggle on the glass, being so skinny compared to especially some of these bigs we're going to see. And we mentioned it in the Louisville game. There were times he was guarding Mikel Brown and doing the best job of anybody on the team. So it's just funny that like the things that we thought he would struggle with the most are really probably the reasons he's getting on the floor right now. And I fully expect that shot's going to come around. He's a better shooter than I think he's kind of shown to this point. And you mentioned him at the beginning of the year as being one of your quote unquote lottery tickets. Like, I could definitely see by March there's going to be a world where we're sitting there saying you can't keep Yelovich off the floor. I mean, he's a good passer. The shot's going to come around. If he can rebound and defend like this, he's going to make it to where he's going to be out there.
Yeah, and right now, I mean, that's literally everything that you're looking for from that 4 spot. A guy who gives you the ability to get some rebounds, plays solid defense, and gives you that ability to stretch the floor and hit those threes. While right now they're not falling at a crazy clip. I mean, I kind of want to remind everybody that Andrew Carr didn't hit these at a crazy clip last year, and we still had the trust in him to go out there and pull them whenever he was open. And he's, at least what we've seen so far, light years better of a defender when it comes to side and off of ball screens. And so far, I think he's been a better rebounder than Andrew Carr. And the 4 spot, that's exactly what we're needing, and what we're trying to figure out is going to be a part of Pope's system. And I think we'd be remiss. Obviously, Tyler's not here. God knows where that kid's at. Who knows? No one knows. But Trent Noah obviously has a career high, and this is someone. I mean, I've been kind of, I don't want to say tough on, but I've said he's got to hit shots to get this playing time. 4 or 5 from 3 and gets rebounds. You can play on my team any day like that. I'll live with some defensive lapses. He had some defensive lapses in this game, but I think what Trent Noah did against Tennessee Tech, obviously, with the quotations around against Tennessee Tech, we got to see him do these against big teams. But I'm hoping that really starts to get him going after he scored his career high.
Yeah, and again, like, we don't really know how much was he kind of set back from the ankle. I mean, you hear ankle injury and you think like, oh, it's no big deal. He'll be back in a couple weeks. But, sometimes it just takes guys a little while to kind of ramp back up. So for him to, maybe it was a confidence thing, and playing a Tennessee Tech where he goes out there and goes 4 or 5 was the spark he needed, and it can give him that confidence for when they play, North Carolina and Gonzaga coming up, because, we've talked about it. This team needs shooting from somewhere. Trent Noah is obviously one of your better shooters. So if he's making shots, he's going to find a way to be on the floor. And then you touched on it, the 6 rebounds. It's just another, piece to that. If he can go out there and knock down 3 or 4 threes a game and grab you a couple rebounds and spurt moments, we kind of talked about Cam Williams being the Almanor replacement. Maybe it's just Trent Noah, because there were moments last year that we saw, Ansley come in and just provide a spark, whether it was knocking down a 3. I feel like in every Tennessee game, he came in, knocked down a 3, and then would get a steal or, some rundown rebound or something like that. And if you can get that from Trent Noah, and he can, once conference play rolls around, he can give you 10 to 15 really good effort minutes and make some shots. I think that's the perfect role for him.
Yeah, and something that obviously Coach Pope loves, he loves his analytics. And just looking at the efficiency ratings for this game, I mean, obviously Malachi Moreno with what he's done finished first on the team with the 27, but right behind him, Trent Noah with a 20. So I think you're seeing these guys really step up, and they're earning more and more minutes. I mean, I think we've talked probably till we're both blue in the face how much Malachi Moreno has impressed both of us this early. I don't think either one of us expected him to be this impressive early. I mean, 13 points, 11 rebounds in 25 minutes, and that's including 3 assists and no turnovers. I mean, I can't even continue to say how impressed I've been with him. The only thing I can say that I wish Malachi had was any sort of athleticism. Because boy, this guy can't jump over a credit card. I love the guy, and he's been great so far. And I'm all aboard the Malachi Moreno train, especially like even when you do get JQ back. I think he has to be a big part of this team. I think he will. But just kind of want to get your thoughts on what you've seen from Malachi, and how, especially tomorrow when he has to face a guy like Caleb Wilson, where he might be doing some of that defending on him. Like, what are you seeing from Malachi?
Well, I've been as impressed as anybody with Malachi, and I think I've mentioned it every single podcast that he's played better.
We'll keep doing it if he's playing like this.
He builds and builds. I will say I don't want to see him one time matched up 1-on-1 against Caleb Wilson tomorrow, because I think that would just right now. I just think that would be a recipe for disaster. But But
They do a good job of getting Caleb Wilson matchups, man, and they'll
they
find a
do.
way. If
Yeah,
that's not working, they'll get them on them.
but we're gonna have to figure something out. Either, I mean, double him, or I don't know. We'll talk about him in a second. But yeah, I mean, I don't know what else to say about Malachi other than he's just been so damn impressive. And again, from where I kind of thought he would be coming into this year, I mean, I didn't think he would play, let alone be your starting big man. And through 7 games, the most consistent player on this team. He's the only one that I feel like has yet to have a disappointing game. Um, he's just kind of brought it, and I didn't see it coming. Again, we're only 7 games in. Like, I don't expect him to kind of continue to get better and better to the point where he's averaging 20 and 10 or something crazy. But like, if he can just provide you this throughout the whole year, I sign up for it. And I think he's been that impressive through 7 games.
Yeah, and everything you said, just put it in caps lock and retweet it for me because he's.
And then we'll say it again on Wednesday, and then we'll say
Hopefully,
it.
we're saying it again, and we'll keep saying it. And then even when JQ gets back, we're talking about how good those two guys are on the floor together. I mean, is there anybody else that you want to talk about in this game? Obviously, we've kind of gotten to expect Colin Chandler to be a nice defensive addition. 5 boards, 5 assists on only 1 turnover. Got a steal. Probably his worst shooting night of the year. 2 of 6 from 3. Which, if that's your worst shooting night of the year, please sign me up, Colin, because I am all good for that. Obviously, you mentioned Jasper a little bit. I mean, I think the only other one to hit on, and I think obviously we've been burying the lead for a long time.
I was
I think
about to
we
say there's a player we have to talk about. Hit the most important shot of the night.
trust me, we'll get there. But I do think we have to have at least a little bit bigger. I know we've kind of talked it already, but Brandon Garrison.
Yeah.
Again, after a game in which the week before you saw him, dive to the boards, you saw what, oh man, maybe did that benching, did him not being in the starter lineup, did that rejuvenate Brandon Garrison? Is he back? Can we expect him to be a part of this team's future and play big minutes for this team? And then he comes out against Tennessee Tech, plays 17 minutes, 2 of 7 from the floor, only 4 rebounds in that time. I don't know, man. We obviously, I don't know if there was anybody across Big Blue Nation that was more down on what they thought BG was going to be to this team than us. Even that said, he's still been wildly disappointing to me. And while Malachi's been great, a lot of what we are so happy with seeing Malachi do is because of what BG has starved us from.
Yep. Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. You really kind of thought last Friday was kind of a turning point for BG. He gets benched. He comes in. He gives you by far his best game of the season. He had solid effort all throughout the 20-ish minutes that he played that game. And then Wednesday night, it was just reverted straight back to what we've seen all year. And, as frustrating as he was a year ago, like if you got that Brandon Garrison, I think you'd almost take it right now because there were at least moments, right? There were moments in certain games where he would come in and play with high energy and grab a couple rebounds. I mean, there were also games where it felt like his energy was lacking, or there were games he was too ramped up and was calling his own number too often. But at least there were times where he was really kind of giving you full effort. And I don't really get it. I think you're right, especially with the way Yelovich is starting to come along. Diabate will be back at some point. You're going to have to find a way to play him with a big that can shoot a little better. I just think it's going to be, even without JQ being back right now, you're starting to see that this team is just unfortunately better when BG is playing very little minutes.
And we've kind of mentioned, how we think you can get the best lineups out there on the floor. And who's in any which is who's ever in.
I was plugging my laptop in and I zoned out for a second. You got me.
It was so loud. Big Blue Nation, blame Jacob Blues if you can just have any hearing issues after that one. But
we can cut it. Have Tom edit it.
Brandon Garrison, I think the jury's out. I really think because we mentioned when we're talking about lineups that we want to see on the floor and best ways to get an efficient defensive lineup and an efficient offensive lineup, he's not a part of either one of those. And at
And
this
he
point,
should for the defense. Like, that's the crazy thing. Like, you look at
yeah,
him, he should for the defense, but I'll let you continue. Sorry.
yeah. And you think exactly like with the size, the length that he has, he's obviously a better athlete than Malachi. You think there'd be a spot in which you can't use that true freshman, but you can turn to your second year junior who's been in your system for 2 years. And the fact that we don't feel comfortable like that and you're starting to see those minutes diminish, I think is saying a lot from Coach Pope because I think we've mentioned it. He gives a long leash to guys that stick with them. You've seen it from Otega so far this year, and you've obviously seen it from BG. I just don't think there's going to be a spot in which BG is a big contributor of this team going forward. I think he can still give you quality minutes, but I think he might be one of those guys that Pope's all about efficiency and people, everybody's good for a 4 minute span, then they start to, tire out. I think BG, you might just have to tell him, hey, man, I've got you in for 2 4 minute spans. At this point and this point in the game, I need everything you got. And then once you go from there, it's all about what he gives you in that time. And then you got to reevaluate when JQ comes back because it's hard to give him more time when JQ comes back. I mean, at what point do you look at it and you're just saying Brandon's officially been squeezed out?
Yeah, I mean, I'm right there with you, and it feels like we've talked after every game, and it feels like that's kind of the path we're on, and it's just a matter of kind of when does it happen, when does JQ come back, and when does BG really get squeezed out. I mean, we talk about the long leash, and maybe Pope does, but he also, I mean, 5 games in, made the decision to switch to Malachi as the starter. So maybe there's a little more there than we realize, and maybe Pope's really kind of starting to realize he's going to have to play his best players. And once JQ's fully healthy, there's not a world he's not one of your best players, and it's just another big. And I think that we see Garrison's minutes get less and less.
All right, Jake, buried the lead for long enough. Go ahead and tell Big Blue Nation your favorite part of the game last Wednesday.
How did we go 27 minutes without talking about the guy that hit the biggest shot of the season to this point in Walker Horn? I mean, you said it. Is there anybody else we need to talk about? Yes. Walker Horn. I mean, that shot and just the excitement of that shot. I mean, the whole place went crazy. You saw every guy on the bench celebrating. Jalen Lowe, I was a little worried about his shoulder. He was like banging into every person on the bench. He was so excited. But, yeah, an awesome moment. Put him up, right there? I think that got him to 50.8 on the shot clock. Runs around, heaves it. Great moment. And, maybe the turning point for the season, some people are asking when we come out and smoke Carolina tomorrow night. So,
yeah, I will say the best thing I think I saw from that, obviously, Walker getting his first collegiate points was great to see.
What
But
a way
I mean,
to do it.
outside of that, just to see how the team reacted and to see, everybody up cheering for him. Like, I think that's the first time I've seen like jubilation from this team, just pure happiness on the basketball court. And it's something that looks like they all rallied around. And then even did a little bit later when Zach Tal scored his first point. Obviously, we're gonna have to work on that free throw percentage, Zach, because 1 for 2 from the line, 50%. I mean, we're gonna have to talk about that. But it was good to see both of those guys get their first collegiate points. And Jake, the Tar Heels, obviously a blue blood, coming to Lexington.
9:30.
9:30. I know you're already upset about it. With the coaching search going on and everything going on, we are strapped over here around the Cats Talk podcast land. But Jake, what are you expecting to see from this North Carolina team? Obviously, a whole lot of Caleb Wilson and then some other auxiliary pieces. What are you expecting?
I got to be honest. I've only watched Carolina play one game this year. I watched them beat Kansas as the bad gambler I am. I think I had Kansas money line in that game. So I watched just about all that game. And I told you today when we were looking up the roster, I don't know one person's name on this team outside of Caleb Wilson. And in part, I think that's a testament to him. But also, I think he really is their whole team. I mean, true freshman, averaging 19 and 9, their leading rebounder, leading scorer. I think if you find a way to slow down Caleb Wilson, and I do agree we're going to have a hard time figuring out who's going to guard him. This is actually a game I think Mo Diabate would be huge in. It doesn't sound like he's going to play. So whether it's you find ways to double him, maybe you slap Ortega and get him, amped up prior to the game. But I mean, it's going to be the Caleb Wilson show, and if you can find a way to stop him, I think you'll have a chance.
Yeah, and I'm right there with you. And this is kind of, what I've been talking about when I say, like, how awesome it would be to have him with this Pope team, with how great of an athlete he is, how well he rebounds the ball. And the fact that you mentioned it right there, like, when you talk about North Carolina, nobody talks about anything else besides Caleb. And that's all they talk about. That's the first thing they want to talk about. And I mean, for good reasons. You mentioned, he's scoring 19.9 per game, just under 20, and he's getting 9 point. I mean, he's point one and point one away from averaging a 20-point double double so far on the year. Oh my! It would have been so awesome to have him in Lexington. If only we could have. If only we could have finished that one off, man. I don't know where the other NIL dollars were going, but a couple extra thrown his way, I think you'd be feeling a lot different about this Kentucky team. It would be very special. And
isn't it like, doesn't it make it worse? Like, you got him, it's literally like the best freshman class we probably have ever seen, and you don't really have one. I mean, there's literally, you could probably go through 11 guys where you're just like, they're difference makers.
It's been a great class, and Caleb is just one of those guys, and we're gonna have to face some of them throughout the season, and obviously for wanting a deep postseason run. But Jake, we promised a shorter episode here for Big Blue Nation because we've got football to talk about all week long. What is going to be your score prediction? You mentioned you think the Cats can win this one. They're 8.5-point favorites. Obviously, no Mo Diabate, no Jalen Lowe, so obviously UK's out 2 starters. What are you expecting?
I don't want to do it because I feel like every time I think this team's starting to turn a corner, or I say they're going to get a big bounce back, they get run off the floor to Michigan State. Never really in the Louisville game besides a couple minutes. But I think they find a way to slow down Caleb Wilson. He's also a true freshman going on the road in a hostile environment. I think that kind of plays to our advantage. I'll say Kentucky 91-80. I think we cover the 8.5. But it's going to be a closer game than that. But I think we kind of pull away towards the end.
Yeah, I'm just looking at like how North Carolina's played so far, and even in some of their teams that we wouldn't say are marquee opponents, they're really not putting up too many points. I mean, obviously, when you get into the games like Winston-Salem and Central Arkansas, they started to put up points. Only put up 74 against Kansas, and then when they played Michigan State, they put up 58. Now, granted, I don't know if we're as good defensively as either one of those teams. Hopefully, at some point, you would think we'll get to that. I'm torn, man, because like you mentioned, I think if we have a good game plan and the fact that we've had almost a full week to set up and we should know a lot about Caleb, I feel like we should have a good game plan and how in which not necessarily we can stop him, but how we can limit how much damage he does against us and make those other players beat us. I really want to pick the Cats to win, and I picked them to win preseason. I still think they're going to. I think it's going to be a close game. I think it's going to be something to where I think it's probably going to be like 82-78. You're going to have to see the defense really step up a little bit towards the end, and you're going to have to see your stars like Ortega. You're going to have to see the guys that you're expecting a lot from, which right now, if you're saying stars, it's probably just Ortega and then maybe Denzel, guys that you can kind of count on and lean on the most for buckets down the stretch. I think you're going to have to need those guys to get buckets down the stretch, and we're going to have somebody. I don't know who it's going to be. Like, Jake, who would you put to take on Caleb? Because right now, obviously, you mentioned how awesome it'd be to have Mo in this game for that reason.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if we have a good matchup. You'd like for it to be Cam Williams. He's that similar body type. I just don't know if he's strong enough in that matchup.
Yeah, you're going to have to find – I mean, maybe it's just doubling him every time he touches the ball, past half court, and that just might have to be the strategy. I lean towards wanting to say, like, you try Ortega there at least early, and you kind of see what his intensity looks like. Because I do think if he has the intensity, I know he's a little smaller than Caleb. Like, I do think he could. I worry about Cam's, lateral quickness and everything. He hasn't been a great on-ball defender to this point this year. So, like, I just think you're going to have to try a bunch of different stuff, and I think you're just going to have to really run a double team at him. And I say this, and somebody probably will, you do that, but you make someone else go out there and score 25 plus to beat you. You know, you shake their hand if their other guards if all their guards knock down 4 threes each, and it's because you're late rotating after doubling Caleb. But like, I really just think that's got to be your strategy, and you got to, hope that, again, he's a true freshman going on the road. He just went to Michigan State. He didn't play, all that great. I think if you can double him, maybe force him into a couple bad passes early out of that double team, and then I think you can kind of get it going.
Yeah, I love what you said there. I just think you have to use a lot of different options. You have to throw him a lot of different looks, especially you mentioned the true freshman, big road environment against or at Rupp Arena against the Cats, who he almost went to. He's going to have a lot to play for in this game. I think you run a lot of different looks at him. I think that's the best potential way you can get him, at least to not be the reason that you lose this game. I expect him to still get his. I still expect him to be a menace on the glass and do all those things. But I like what you said. Given a lot of different looks there, I think it's probably the best recipe for success for the Cats to get this win. And hopefully 9:30 tomorrow in Rupp. Obviously, we'll have you covered here on the Cats Talk podcast. Follow us on Instagram, on X, on YouTube, TikTok, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. We're there. Jake, go Big Blue. It's
Go Big
time.
Blue.
We need to get Uncle Mo on our side, get momentum on our side. And hopefully when we talk to you guys next, probably on Thursday or something like that, we got good news for you. Go Cats. We're both predicting wins here. Let's hope we can get a nice win for the Rupp Arena faithful.
Let's maybe get a little winning streak going, and yeah, let's start it tomorrow night.
Absolutely. Go Big Blue.